I knew the second that pontoon boat drifted away from my dock. Dana Whitmore sitting ramrod straight while her HOA attorney whispered into her ear that this wasn't some cute little spat about mailbox colors anymore. This was a full-scale land grab for a $3 million private island, and the people coming after me had no idea they were picking a fight with the county sheriff himself. 3 years earlier, my life had been painfully ordinary in the best way. I was just Jacob Hayes, mid-40s, small county sheriff who liked his coffee black, his patrols quiet, and his weekends as far away as possible from people arguing over hedge heights and approved paint swatches. Then my Aunt Margaret Lane died. She was brilliant, stubborn, and just eccentric enough that you never knew if she was joking until the punchline never came. I figured I'd inherit a bit of cash, maybe her old canoe, maybe a rocking chair from the lake house. Instead, her lawyer slid a folder across the table and said, "She left you the property, the lake house, and the island." I thought he meant a sandbar, a rock pile, some poetic nickname. No, it was a real, man-made island the size of a small ball field, sitting in the middle of Lake Briarwood with its own parcel number, its own tax bill, and, this turned out to be important, its own independent status, outside of any neighborhood, HOA, or planned development. When I started sorting through Margaret's paperwork, the picture sharpened. Permits, soil studies, erosion control approvals, zoning letters, water access rights. She hadn't just built a quirky hideaway, she'd engineered a legal fortress. It would take the state, the county, and a team of bored bureaucrats all pushing in the same direction to touch that island. So I did exactly what she asked in that letter. Keep it safe. I shored up the rock walls, brought in contractors to stabilize the bank, all signed off and stamped, built a small off-grid cabin on Cedar Crown Island, solar, rainwater, composting toilet, the whole eco-friendly package. Weekends, my wife and kids would load fishing poles and hot dogs into the boat. The dog would flop on the deck like a hairy throw rug, and the rest of the world just faded. No radio calls, no bar fights to break up, no parents screaming about whose teenagers started what on social media. Just water, sky, and the feeling that for a few hours, nobody needed me to fix their worst decisions. The lake itself wasn't huge, 40, maybe 50 acres, farmland clinging to one side, and on the other, the creeping edge of the future. That future arrived as Harbor's Edge Reserve, the kind of master plan neighborhood that uses words like elevated living and curated lifestyle experiences in the brochure, where people mow in straight lines wearing golf visors, and someone will absolutely email you about the direction your garbage cans are facing. At first, they stayed on their shore. Kids would paddle out, point at the cabin, yell, "Cool place," before their parents yanked them back like I was running a pirate radio station. I waved. I'm not a hermit. Curiosity doesn't bother me. Then I found one of their glossy brochures washed up on my shore. Beautiful aerial photo of Lake Briarwood. Except the middle, where my island should have been, was blurred out like some classified military installation. Perfect blue water, pristine shoreline, and a gray smudge where my life actually existed. That was the first twinge of unease. The real trouble started on a warm Saturday, my youngest kid feeding a turtle off the dock, the dog asleep in the sun, me knee-deep in the water clearing debris from the intake pump, when I heard a low hum behind me. Not an old outboard. Something newer, smoother. A sleek pontoon slid towards Cedar Crown, white hull, chrome trim, 3 people standing up like they were arriving at a marina inspection. That was the first time I met Dana Whitmore, president of the Silver Shore Estates Association, the HOA queen of Harbor's Edge Reserve. Perfect blazer, blonde bob carved with a protractor, smile bright enough for a campaign poster, but eyes like frosted glass. Beside her, Lauren Pierce clutched a leather portfolio the size of a pizza box, and behind them, Mitchell Crane, legal consultant, wore the permanent smirk of a man who bills by the minute and believes he's dangerous because he knows where to find the statute book. They didn't wave, didn't ask permission, just bumped my dock like it was public property and stepped off. "Lovely spot," Dana said, gaze already stripping the place for resale value. "Shame it isn't accessible to the community." "It's not part of your community," I said. "Well," she replied, like she was explaining gravity to a child. "Harbor's Edge voted last month to extend our jurisdiction over the lake." I've been sheriff long enough to recognize the tone of someone trying to wrap a lie in polite language. HOAs can vote on mailbox styles and pet leashes. They don't get to vote themselves into ownership of land they don't own. I dried my hands slow, took my time. Your HOA voted, I said. Among yourselves. That's cute. Doesn't mean a thing to the county, to the state, or to me. Mitchell stepped in, tried to lean on some pseudo-legal nonsense about shared resources and community standards. Lauren opened her folder to show me drone photos of my solar array, my dock, my shoreline reinforcement, little red circles around everything, labeled unregulated development. I pointed to the reflections in the water. If you're going to doctor photos, maybe crop out the harbor's edge landscaping trucks in the background. They froze, just for a heartbeat. I could almost hear the script tearing in Dana's head. She switched tactics, offered solutions, talked about visual harmony, community wellness, all that brochure language that sounds like a massage but feels like a chokehold. I'm not joining your HOA, I said. Her smile tightened. Membership is irrelevant, she answered sweetly. The lake is part of our long-term vision. Your vision, I said. Not mine. She stared at me, eyes hard now, and said 6 words that stuck in my gut long after her boat glided away across the water. Not yet, but it will be. The island felt different after that. Not ruined, just marked, tagged by a predator that had tested the fence and found more resistance than it expected. People like Dana don't give up when you say no. They change angles. And I'm a sheriff. I've spent my whole career watching predators change angles. The next morning, I wasn't on patrol. I was in uniform at the Broward County Records office. Not because the badge scared people, but because I wanted a paper trail that started with me calm and official, not angry and reactive. Frank Delaney, the clerk, ex-Marine, glasses, zoning code memorized for fun, raised an eyebrow when I walked in with that look. HOA trouble, he asked. Need everything on Harbor's Edge Reserve and anyone tied to Silver Shore Estates Association, I said. Petitions, land use, environmental filings, all of it. His smile faded. That bad, huh? The printer started spitting out documents like an anxious slot machine. When I started reading, my jaw locked. Harbor's Edge had filed to reclassify Lake Briarwood as a community-managed recreational ecosystem. Beautiful language for, we'd like authority, please, and we're going to wrap it in environmental concern so you don't look too closely. Photos attached. My island circled. My dock. My solar. My rainwater system. All flagged as unregulated shoreline disruption. The petition had advanced farther than I liked. It was sitting with the County Environmental Review Board, which meant Dana wasn't just going to bury me in HOA fines. She was trying to weaponize environmental law to fence me in, drown the island in inspections and temporary restrictions, until it became unlivable. Smell that, Frank said. Smell what? Perfume, he grinned. That's the kind of paperwork rich people file after a glass of white wine and a Pinterest binge. He dug deeper and pulled up a second folder. Different name, Harbolite Development Group. Concept renderings. Phase 2, Briarwood Wellness and Luxury Retreat. Right in the middle of the pretty sketch? My island. Except in their version, Cedar Crown had been erased and replaced with a glass and wood villa, private docks, floating decks, yoga platforms, branded Harbolite Experience. Below that, pending jurisdictional resolution and removal of current occupant. Not owner. Occupant. That word told me everything. I walked that binder straight to Rachel Quinn, my attorney, a shark disguised as a woman who burns cinnamon candles and smiles like trouble. They're laying groundwork to steal your island with a hug, she said after 10 pages. No, they can't do it legally. But they can bury you, stall you, scare you. Until you sell just to get your life back. So what do? She twirled her pen like a knife. We go to war. The boring kind first. Paper, logs, filings. You let them get emotional and sloppy. Back at the lake, Harbor's Edge made their next move. I saw it from the dock. Construction crews on their shore, orange vests, survey tripods, lumber unloading, and a sign leaning against a truck. Harbor's Edge Community Pier. Phase 1 Restoration. Restoration is HOA code for we're about to build whatever we want. And if you complain, you hate nature. Through my binoculars, I spotted Lauren pointing from blueprint to water to my island like she was planning true positions. I logged a neutral note with dispatch, possible zoning issue, conservation zone, no action yet. I wasn't going to storm over there and hand Dana the abusive sheriff narrative she was drooling for. I was going to document. Quiet. Legal. Annoying as hell. The following day, it escalated again. A white patrol boat glided around Cedar Crown. Harbor's Edge Lake Watch stenciled on the side. Two guys in matching polos, sunglasses, and clipboards, of course, slowly circling like they were casing a crime scene. They eased up to my dock. Afternoon, one of them said. We're conducting a routine compliance inspection. No, you're not, I answered. Back it up. We've received reports of unsafe shoreline structures. He tried again. No, you haven't. The second guy grabbed the rail, ready to step onto my dock. We're authorized by Harbor's Edge too. Authorized by who? I cut in. Your HOA? Your board? Your Facebook group? The first one flashed a shiny badge, the kind you buy in bulk online. This grants us access, he said. I untied their bow line, shoved them back into the water with one hard push, and watched them scramble. That badge and $5 will get you a coffee, I said. Off. My dock. They retreated, scribbling furiously on their little forms like kids playing official. Harassment, sure. But then the mask slipped further. A couple days later, I got to the island early and noticed the cabin door cracked open. Every instinct I have from years of law enforcement came roaring back. I went in low and sideways. Drawers open. Cabinets rifled. Rug flipped. Two men in dark uniforms, duty belts, radios. No legitimate patches, no agency markings. Sir, we're conducting an inspection under HOA directive, the older one said without turning. Please vacate the structure. Show me your warrant, I said. We received a complaint of suspicious activity on HOA-regulated property. The younger one smirked. This property is not HOA regulated. That's under review. The older one snapped, hand drifting toward his pepper spray. Before I could move, heavy footsteps sounded on the dock and a familiar voice barked. You've got to be kidding me. Luke Carter, ex-Army Ranger, now a wilderness instructor and professional chaos magnet, stepped in, took one look, and muttered, Nope. Those aren't cops. The older fake officer grabbed for his spray. Luke moved first, ripped the fake badge off his chest, and dropped him with one clean punch. The younger one bolted, sprinted down the dock, nearly fell into the lake trying to start the boat. I radioed dispatch, reported impersonation of law enforcement, and within minutes my real deputies were there, cuffing the conscious one and hauling him away. Records later tied both officers to Sentinel Ridge Security, a private firm partially owned by Greg Whitmore, Dana's husband. Fake Lake Patrol. Fake environmental concern. Fake cops. Same money. That was the moment the last pieces slid into place for me. They weren't just hoping I'd give up. They were probing, tracking, building a case, trying to scare me into making a single wrong move they could spin into hostile sheriff on Rogue Island. So the next time I woke in the pre-dawn and felt that wrong kind of stillness, the too quiet air, I wasn't surprised when the solar inverter failed. Climbing to check the panels, finding the conduit cut clean through, not chewed, not weathered, sliced. Water system, sabotaged with a hidden, blinking GPS tracker nestled under carefully stacked river stones. Owen Park, my cybersecurity guy, traced the device right back to Sentinel Ridge and threw them to a holding company owned by Greg Whitmore. Same network, same obsession. That night, while I sat in a camp chair on the deck instead of sleeping, crowbar across my knees, the island lit itself on fire. Motion sensor ping. Orange glow. I sprinted to find the dock engulfed, flames running the planks like they'd been fed accelerant, trail camera shattered, wires cut. I put it out. I coughed smoke. My hands shook. And in the ashes, I found a half-melted laminate scrap with the Silver Shore Estates logo burned around the edges. They weren't even pretending anymore. They wanted me scared, exhausted, alone. Instead, they got the coldest version of me I know, the sheriff who's done watching and is ready to go on offense. The morning after the fire, I wasn't just mad. I was done. I boxed everything. Photos of burn patterns, the broken camera core, the GPS unit Owen had traced, the laminate scrap with the HOA logo, all of Frank's records, all of Harbolite's pretty drawings with my island erased. In Rachel Quinn's office, sit still on my boots, we spread it all out like a crime scene. Good, she said quietly. They finally crossed from civil stupidity into criminal territory. Owen pulled what he could from the damaged trail cam. A single intact frame of a hand swinging a tool, wrist emblazoned with a tattoo we'd already seen in corporate retreat photos of Greg Whitmore. Rachel grinned like a wolf. They put the arsonist's arm on camera. Bless them. By the end of the day, she drafted enough motions to make a judge's eyes water. Emergency injunction to freeze Silver Shore's discretionary accounts. Petition to force the county to acknowledge my environmental compliance. Request for criminal investigation into Sentinel Ridge and Wilson Whitmore Holdings, and a demand for judicial review of HOA governance misconduct. The hearing date landed fast, but Dana tried one more play first. A town council livestream. Mia, Rachel's paralegal, burst into the office with a tablet. On screen, Dana stood at the podium, voice soft, posture saintly. If we can resolve the private island issue, she cooed, we can transform that space into a wellness retreat, meditation cabins, zero-emission lodging, a gift to our community. She denied any private development ties while parroting Harbolite's investor deck line for line. She's stealing your island with a halo on, Rachel muttered. Perfect. Judges hate that. Court day. The room was packed. Neighbors, reporters, curious locals who'd heard HOA versus sheriff and showed up like it was free theater. Dana came in wearing pastel and pearls, husband Greg a few rows back, and their lawyer Alan Pierce oozing charm. Your Honor, Alan began, our clients are simply concerned about unregulated development on a fragile lake. They are concerned, Rachel cut in, about losing their future spa villa. She laid it out methodically. Aunt Margaret's original deeds, decades-old permits, environmental clearances, county letters recognizing Cedar Crown Island as an independent parcel long before Harbor's Edge existed. My compliance records, inspection reports, photos of every offending structure paired with official approvals. Then she pivoted. Investor decks, jurisdiction petitions, emails between Dana, Harbolite, and Sentinel Ridge. The drone images with doctored blur. The GPS tracker with serial numbers tied to Greg's holding company. The trail cam still frame of his tattooed arm swinging into my dock. Finally, the clip of Dana at the town council, lying about development ties while describing the exact plans before the judge. Gasps rolled through the courtroom. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Whitmore, he said slowly, are you acting as an HOA president or as an agent of Harbolite Development Group? For the first time since I'd met her, Dana didn't have a line ready. Her mouth opened, closed. Alan tried to object. The judge shut him down with a look. Given the evidence, the judge said, all enforcement actions by Silver Shore Estates Association regarding Cedar Crown Island are suspended effective immediately. All discretionary HOA funds are frozen pending a forensic audit. This matter is referred to the county prosecutor for potential criminal charges. The room exploded. I didn't cheer. I just let out a breath I'd been holding for months. The audit that followed could have been its own Netflix series. Community dues funneled through shell companies. Consulting fees to Sentinel Ridge listed as public safety coordination. A line item for an aerial surveillance balloon over my island. $12,400 and some change for spying. The prosecutor went to work. Fraud. Illegal surveillance. Impersonating law enforcement. Conspiracy to commit arson. Misuse of community funds. Dana and Greg were arrested. Sentinel Ridge's license evaporated. Harbolite pulled out, investors scattering like roaches in a kitchen light. At the final trial, there were no pearls. Just orange jumpsuits, shackles, and Dana listening as a jury read guilty over and over. 12-year sentence. No early parole. Greg got his own stretch. Silver Shore Estates dissolved in under a year by court order and sheer embarrassment. The half-built community pier came down, pile by pile, the lake restored to what it had been before somebody decided they were entitled to everything they could photograph. I rebuilt the dock, this time with composite material and a fire suppression line. Upgraded the solar, buried backup batteries, installed a redundant camera system that didn't care if someone cut one wire. Then I bolted a cedar sign into the rock where everyone could see it. Cedar Crown Island. Private sovereign parcel. Not subject to vote. People took pictures. The local paper ran a headline about Sheriff Saves His Island. HOA Empire Collapses. Teenagers came out on a field trip and brought a cake that said, "Thanks for fighting the HOA, Sheriff." But the real payoff was simpler. My kids sitting on the edge of the dock at sunset, feet in the water, dogs snoring between us, the lake quiet again, no drones, no fake patrols, no linen blazer on a pontoon staring at my cabin like it's already listed. My daughter looked up at the sign. "Does this mean nobody can ever come here?" she asked. "Of course they can," I told her. "They just have to ask, not vote." She laughed, and the sound finally felt like the island again. I stood alone later, watching the sky turn the water to gold, thinking about Margaret's letter, about how she'd written, "Keep it safe," like she knew exactly the kind of people who'd come sniffing around one day. She didn't leave me a weird piece of real estate. She left me a test. Here's what I learned. You almost never lose your home, your land, or your freedom in one dramatic moment. You lose it in inches. Petition by petition. Emergency measure by temporary restriction. Clipboards, not crowbars. Smiles, not threats, until the threats show up at 3 in the morning with gasoline. The villains in this story didn't wear ski masks. They wore linen. They talked about wellness, community, the greater good. And every time someone stayed silent, they took one more step toward the waterline. So I'll leave you with this. When somebody shows up on your land with fake authority and real consequences, when a board or a neighbor or a community leader starts talking like your private life is up for a vote, where do you draw the line? At what point does keeping the neighborhood nice turn into bullying, coercion, and theft dressed up as order? And if they ever picked your house, your farm, your little patch of peace as their next project, would you stand on your porch and fight back? Or would you look away and hope they never write your name on their map?